Welcome to the Hogue Smiley Face Method for factoring sum and difference of cubes. Found that this helps students remember how to factor those sum and difference of cubes problems that you don't see very often. If you just remember, hey, use that smiley face, it really helps. So let me show you how it works. Before we get on to the sum and difference of cubes, let's take a glance back at a difference of squares and how we factor that. So if we take a look at x squared minus 25, hopefully at this point we feel comfortable with factoring that. We're going to get our two binomials, x, and our signs are opposite, positive and negative. We know it has to cancel into 0, or the factors have to cancel, so we use 5 and 5. We kind of are using a pattern, or say some of us have been taught it, that we don't even really think about. But another way we can do this is we're taking the square root of x squared and the square root of 25, and we're putting the square root of x squared into both of these spots, and we're putting the square root of 25, 5, into both of these spots, and I'm always going to have a positive and a negative. It's a pattern. It's a pattern that works every time when we have a difference of squares. Two perfect squares and a subtraction sign, a difference. So that pattern looks like this. If I have a squared minus b squared, it factors into a plus b and a minus b. Just a little side note as a reminder, we call these things conjugates. And so while I'm thinking about this again to look at that pattern, again, a lot of us probably do it without thinking. We're taking the square root of a squared, a goes in both spots, and then I take the square root of b squared, that goes in both spots. And I know my signs, I don't include my sign in the square root, but I know my signs of the pattern is I have a positive and a negative. So we're going to use that to help us memorize this pattern, or two patterns, for sum and difference of cubes. A lot of times when we learn sum and difference of cubes, we're just thrown these random patterns. If I want to factor a sum of cubes, I have a perfect cube, a cubed, plus a perfect cube, b cubed. And I'm just told, hey, memorize this. It factors into a binomial and a trinomial. Looks like this. Or if I have a difference of cube, perfect cubed a cubed minus perfect cube b cubed, it factors into this pattern, a minus b, and then this trinomial. Well, when I look at these patterns, they are similar. Both of them have a binomial, and then each of them have a trinomial. And even the a and the b parts all look the same. What's different? Well, what's different is the signs. So let me show you what I use with my students to help us kind of learn these patterns. So I say, okay, what do I do here to get A and to get B? Well, I'm going to take the cube root of A cubed. That's going to get me A. I'm going to take the cube root of B cubed, and that's going to get me B. That's going to get me my binomial part. So then, well, how do I get this part? Well, let's see. A squared. So I got to take this and I got to square it. Well, then how did they get the middle part? Well, let's see. If I have A and B here, it looks like they took these and they multiplied them together and they got A and B. And then to get the last part, they took this B and they squared. Oh, we got a smiley face. And guess what? It kind of works for this pattern too. I'm going to take the cube root of A cubed and get A. I'm going to take the cube root of b cubed and get b. And then that gives me my binomial. And then to get the rest of the pattern, I'm going to take my a, square it. I'm going to multiply these things together. Notice I'm not talking about any signs, and get ab. And then I'm going to square this, and I'm going to get b squared. So that helps for both patterns. But then I'm thinking, okay, well, how do I remember the signs? Well, let's look. I had a positive, then it flipped to negative, and it ended with positive. Here, I kept the sign, negative. I flipped to positive, and I ended with a positive. So my signs are the same, opposite, or flipped, and positive for both patterns. Or what I like to use, SOP, S-O-P. It's from another math teacher here. So same, opposite, positive, SOP. So let's look at this in action, the smiley face. Oh, helps to know your perfect cubes. If we don't know them, we can always use our calculator. So there's your perfect cubes for you. All right, so here are some examples. So I've got x cubed plus 216. So I'm going to take cube root x. I'm going to take a cube root. Notice I don't include the sign. Cube root of 216. 6. Put that in parentheses. I'm not going to even put the signs in until the very end. Now here comes a smiley face. It's always nice to have a smiley face on your paper too. So I'm going to square this, x squared, multiply them together, 6x, square it, 36. Now comes the signs. Remember, the signs are same, opposite, positive, SOP. So I bring down the same sign, positive. Then the next place I have a blank, I got to put the opposite, negative. And then I have to end with a positive. And I know probably your teachers tell you, hey, factor, factor, factor. So we always look to see if we can factor more. Good news is this will never factor more. Once we're to that point, we can stop because that doesn't factor. All right, let's try another one. Y cubed minus 8. So I'm going to take the cube root of y cubed, y. I'm going to take the cube root of 8. I don't include the sign because the sign is built into my pattern. And then I'm going to use the smiley face to make the rest of my trinomial. I'm going to square y squared, smile, multiply them together, 2y, square, 4. Signs, bring this down. The sign is the same. Then I flip to the opposite. And then I end with a positive. Bam, I'm done. And again, it's not even so much right now that this is helpful when you're in the work. But okay, let's say we need it in a couple months. We're stuck on what to do. Just say, hey, you'd use a smiley face. And that usually can jog our memory. All right, last one I'll look at. Oh, we've got numbers in the front and the back. Still, always look for that GCF. There isn't one. So I take the cube root of the front, 7x. I take the cube root of the last, 5. And then I'm going to squaring the number and the x. So 49x squared. Big smile, you multiply them together. 35x square, 25. Now we're going to bring down our sign. Same sign, so positive. Flip to the negative and end with a positive. It's always nice when your teacher grades this because you got a lot of smiley faces shining back at you. So remember, this is the smiley face method, or you could even call it the Hogue smiley face method. Keep an eye out for other videos coming your way.